Hey guys, welcome to my commentary on my Major Project magazine. Now, the first app that I used was ViscoCam, and this was my main app for manipulating images just because it provided a range of unique filters. The filters that I mostly used was A6, C1, and X1 just to bring out those warm tones and the chromatic colors of the subject. And to add that black and white overlay to some of the images. I used a range of tools such as skewing just to fix the perspective of some of the images without distorting them. Changed the contrast, brightness, and the temperature of some of them. I added a grain effect just to create that vintage look, and it also saved the quality of the images just in case they're too pixelated to be blown up to an A4 size. And there I just copied and pasted the edits of the first image, and I just added it to the rest of the photo set. And then they were uploaded into InDesign, which was my main assembling software. Here you can see the different layers and frames that I had created just for ease of uploading the images. Most of the font in the magazine were hand-drawn by me, either using a digital drawing pad or through Adobe Sketch on my iPad using a digital pencil, and here is the final product. I freestyled an image background in Adobe Photoshop, and I drew inspiration from a German communication designer, Simone Seiler, who created graphics for one of my favorite musicians, Anderson .Paak, and he basically controls his Instagram page. I loved his work just because it was very conceptual and colorful, and that's totally my style. So I tried to challenge myself, and I implemented his styles using Photoshop and a lot of scaling and recoloring. So here I basically use a combination of clipping tools. A lot of clipping happened in this edit. A lot of use of freeform, magnetic, and polygonal lasso, and marquee tools, as you can see what I'm doing here. And I basically transformed the images just to scale the images differently. The hardest part of doing this article was I had to basically strategically layer the images that I had taken from the internet. So here you can see me just placing it in where I wanted it and then putting it behind the football field. Now, majority of the images I had taken from Google, and I had to ensure that it was set on labeled for reuse with modification just to avoid any legal issues. Every element in this image is basically a reference to Frank Ocean and his music, and I am a huge fan of Frank Ocean, so this was very special to me, and I was able to capture the conceptual concepts of his album. For example, the ocean is basically representation of his last name, and the football field was an homage to one of his songs, Forrest Gump. Now, I wanted to contrast the blue of the ocean, so I made everything behind it a hue of pink, just to pay homage to my favorite song of his, Pink and White. And I did this by playing with channel mixer and filter. And here I'm basically struggling with the image, with the layering of the different palm trees. Now, here I wanted to recreate the font that he used for his Blonde album. So I first drew it on paper, and then I traced it using Photoshop using shape tools. And I had to do this because this wasn't a normal font that you would see in different softwares. So here's the final product. So for this floral topography, I was guided by a tutorial that I have found on YouTube, uploaded by tutevid.com. And I created this in Photoshop. I had already quickly and poorly removed the background of this floral arrangement that I had taken from the internet, and I added a stroked rectangle around the flowers, which I wanted it to be behind the flowers just so it was popping over. And I did this by using a lot of erase tools over a clipping mask. So when I had to clip the different letters, I had to set them to an opacity of about 80%, so that I could see the layer beneath the letters, just to ensure that I wasn't accidentally clipping other things and erasing things that I still wanted to be there. And as you can see, this process took a really long time just because I wanted to ensure that it was perfect. Here I am adjusting the brightness, the contrast, the vibrance of the colors of the flowers. just for it to pop out of that very dark background. And then I added a drop shadow to this border, but I wasn't entirely happy, so I just left it there. Then I went in with a soft black brush, where I used the images to create soft shadows for the letters over the border. And I was struggling for this letter N, just because the brush tool that I was using was circular, and I really just needed a geometric shaped brush. Then here I'm just changing the colors of the letters to an electric blue, and did that by repeating the same color code, just so that it fit in with the vibrancy of the flowers. Then I merged everything and added a collective drop shadow, put it over a number of different backgrounds, and it looked like this.